Welcome back to our podcast. Today we're talking about a very famous relationship book called Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. It's a book that tries to explain why men and women sometimes seem like they're from completely different planets when it comes to communication.
And honestly, after reading some of the ideas from this book, it started to make a lot of sense why we sometimes misunderstand each other.
Exactly. The main idea of the book is that men and women communicate differently, think differently, and often respond to problems in very different ways.
Which is something we've definitely experienced in our relationship.
One of the biggest ideas from the book is how men and women respond when someone talks about a problem. According to the book, when women share a problem, they often want someone to listen and understand how they feel.
Yes, that's very true. Sometimes when I talk about something stressful that happened at work, I'm not necessarily looking for a solution. I just want someone to listen and say something like, "That sounds really frustrating."
But the way men usually respond is completely different. When we hear a problem, our first instinct is to fix it. We start thinking of solutions immediately.
And that's where misunderstandings happen.
Exactly. Because while I think I'm helping by giving advice, you sometimes feel like I'm not really listening.
Right. Sometimes the solution isn't what I'm looking for in that moment. I just want empathy.
When I first read that idea, it actually explained a lot of our past conversations.
Like the time I was complaining about a stressful situation at work.
Yes, I remember that. I immediately started giving you a step-by-step plan about what you should do.
And I remember thinking, why is he turning this into a strategy meeting?
Because that's how my brain works. I hear a problem and I think, okay, how do we solve it?
But sometimes the best response is simply listening.
Another interesting idea in the book is something called the cave. The author says that when men are stressed, they tend to withdraw and think quietly by themselves.
Which is something you definitely do.
Yes, when something is bothering me, I tend to go quiet and think about it internally.
And when that happens, my instinct is the complete opposite. I want to talk about the problem immediately.
So when I go quiet, you think something is wrong.
Exactly. I start asking questions like, "Are you okay?" Or "What's going on?"
And my response is usually something like, nothing.
But clearly something is going on.
From my perspective, I just need time to process things before talking about them.
But from my perspective, talking about the problem helps me process it.
So it's two completely different coping styles.
And that's one of the main points the book tries to make. It's not that one way is right and the other is wrong. They're just different.
Another interesting idea from the book is about how men and women communicate during everyday conversations.
Yes. The book suggests that men often communicate to exchange information,
While women communicate to build connection.
which explains something that happens between us sometimes.
Let me guess, when you're telling a story.
Exactly.
Sometimes when you tell a story, my brain starts waiting for the main point.
But the story itself is the point.
That realization helped me understand conversations better.
And it helped me understand that sometimes when you respond quickly or directly, you're not trying to dismiss the conversation. That's just how you communicate.
One funny example I remember is when you were telling me about a frustrating situation with a coworker.
Yes, I remember that.
I immediately started giving you advice on how to handle the situation.
You sounded like a motivational speaker.
I thought I was being helpful.
But what I really wanted to hear was something like, "That sounds really frustrating."
That would have saved us about 30 minutes of discussion.
Exactly.
So after learning about these ideas, I think the biggest lesson for me was realizing that communication in relationships isn't just about what you say. It's about understanding how the other person processes things.
For me, the biggest lesson was realizing that when we misunderstand each other, it's often not because someone is wrong. It's just because we're approaching the situation differently.
And once you realize that, it becomes easier to be patient with each other.
Relationships aren't about thinking exactly the same way.
They're about learning how to understand each other's differences.
And sometimes those differences are actually what make relationships interesting.
Exactly.
So, if you're in a relationship and you've ever wondered why you and your partner sometimes seem to speak completely different languages, this book might give you some interesting insights.
Because sometimes it really does feel like men and women are from different planets.
But the good news is that with a little understanding and communication, those planets can still work together.
And that's what makes relationships worth the effort.
Absolutely.